This conference will now be recorded.
By the shed again.
I walked it. I don't see a
Okay.
problem.
I'll walk down there.
We'll talk about that, okay? Hello, everybody.
Recommendations.
Hey, Warren.
Warren, it's 2 o'clock.
Warren,
2 o'clock.
we gotta go.
There's 3 of them.
I know my answer. It's like you're home now, right?
Okay, we'll talk
All right.
about the meetings, but there's 3. Makes life complicated.
I make sure your speakers are on the buttons up. Yeah. it
Up
looks
is
like it.
on.
Okay. All right, it's 2 o'clock. Today is March 2nd. We're gonna start the March monthly meeting of the Stoneybrook Advisory Committee. And you have an agenda in front of you and you have a minutes in front of you.
Roll call.
I know, I'm going there.
Sorry.
I'm just mentioning that as I'm looking down the list here. We have everyone but JT is here right now. So we have 6 out of 7. Myself, Chris, Warren, Thomas, Virginia, and Angela are all here. We have a quorum. And before we get going, I said that we'd listen to what Kenny had to talk, and I want to keep you waiting here. So Kenny, have it.
Great. Thank you all. Kenny Hall, for the record, Kenny Hall, Utility Director. We met yesterday. Well, no, it was Wednesday. Yeah, yesterday. My days are all messed up. We met yesterday morning with all the contractors out at Station 14. Yeah, we just did a final walkthrough. Wanted to get everybody on the same page. I would like to say that everything is going to be sequentially in order. As far as we know, everything is a go. Once the lift station is done, the fencing people will come in right behind them. Hopefully it'll be on Monday or Tuesday of the following week.
Is there any concrete work being done on what you're doing right now? Or
No.
No.
Not until we get into putting the panels in. Once we put in the panels in, but that's going to be inside the fence and it shouldn't affect the community at all. And what I wanted to ask you all is the parking. Now, at Station 14, which is the last one at the end of the road, they can park 2 trucks in that driveway, but there's probably going to be 3 or 4, and there's going to be a big crane truck because they got to go in there and basically rip the station apart, take everything out. We can take the first 10 feet from each side of the fence, park them on the sidewalk right there, close that section off. And then we'll restore it once everything's done. That would be.
I do want to let you know that sidewalk is not the strongest thing in the world.
Right.
There's no reinforcement in there whatsoever. So there is the possibility.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you want to put plywood down or something, but you're
Sure.
correct.
Well, the thing of it is we're going to go in sequential order. So it's going to be 14, 13. And when we get to 12, which is the one on the other side of the road in front of that intersection there, what we found out, what inspired us to do the driveways, was that when you get in front of that intersection and start blocking traffic, and it just turns into a nightmare. Yeah, it gets very dangerous. So when we get to 11, I don't think we're going to have any choice but to go into the grass up on the side of it. Again, we'll take pictures of everything before we start, and then we'll restore everything to the way it was to y'all's satisfaction. But it's just, I just don't know. There's going to be one day when they come in and do the lining that the truck's going to be end to end, and it's going to be out in that road. And there's just no way we're going to be able to get around that. But everything else should be good.
Yeah, stupid question. In the other communities in Gateway, are there others that have those lift stations right on the main drag like that? Where do they put them? I mean, it doesn't seem to be the problem.
If it's not right next to the road, it's in the worst spot away from the road. Yeah, it's a mixed batch, and a lot of it comes down to what year it was built.
Live next to it, I'm sure.
Yeah. But it comes down to what year it was built. The earlier ones are set back way from the road. The ones 2000 plus are usually right up on the road. But
the work that you're doing this time, is this routine maintenance or is this an upgrade?
Yeah, well, they're 15 years. So at about 15, 14, 16 year mark. You're right. Well, when they built them, a lot of them just sat there. There was nothing there to really go into. But what we really want is the liner, that concrete, because that hydrogen sulfide gets into that well. And once that liner is penetrated and that H2S can get into that concrete, it just destroys it. I mean, like literally destroys it. So we had to recoat it. The coating usually lasts 10 to 15 years, somewhere in there.
Gotcha.
And then all the piping is going to be switched out.
So Kenny, how long will you be at each station?
We're anticipating 7 days
Per station?
per station.
Wow.
Yes.
So this is going to be a month and a half.
Yeah.
We need to figure out those dates and communicate that to our counter.
Well, did you guys get the schedule I sent you all, or the kind of the timetable? If not, I'll send it out to you today. I sent a timetable, kind of a,
Did
And that-
you sent it to Carmen? Because I don't remember
I
seeing
thought I
it.
sent it to you.
To me?
I'll resend it when I go back to
Okay.
my office.
I checked your email once in a while.
Yeah, I kind of chronologically put everything in order.
Okay.
In a perfect world, we'll go right by that, but the thing of it is the liners. So they'll go in and rip it all apart. It's when the liner guys can get in.
Probably the easiest thing, send it to Georgia.
Okay.
And ask Georgia to send it to all of us.
Okay. And then one other thing,
Directly.
sure. Station 12, which is the opposite side of the road, that fencing there, we're gonna redo it. We're basically gonna pick it up, the front part, nothing on the sides, but on the front, and we're gonna switch it around. So the open gate is gonna be on the open side. Originally, we were planning on putting a generator in there, so we wanted to keep that open. That's not gonna work out. We have enough mobiles that we don't need it. So what we're gonna do is put the gate on the open side, and then we can put pumps or a bypass pump or generator in that fence, secure it out of line of sight, that. And then at Station 12 again, the Department of Health has asked us if possible to put back T testing stations. I don't know if you probably have no idea what I'm talking about, but we're putting them in every community. And what it does is we're required by law to have the Department of Health come in and pull back T samples for us. They have to pull 20 a month. We have to provide them with addresses so they can go out to these houses, and it could be anybody's house. And what happens is they go into the front yard, they're not there, the hose is locked on there and they can't, and then you're putting them in a situation, especially when COVID was happening, where they're in somebody's front yard, right at their front door, taking their hose bib off, and somebody comes walking out like, what are you doing? What this does is it gets them out of that. We'll put it right on the side of Pebblebrook, or if you're staring at the station on the left-hand side, out of the way, there'll be a box this side. I'll send you pictures when I send you that, so you can kind of get an idea. It only sits about this high. It opens up, they can come in, turn it on, pull a sample of water, and off they go. It avoids everybody having to go into anybody's yard.
So you're pulling potable water.
Potable water.
Now, I can understand in some communities where they do not have irrigation water as a separate line.
Mhm.
I know there are devices on those houses to stop for the irrigation system
Sure.
from feeding back in. Why do we have to do that with how's
It's
that?
required. It's part of the CAFR, the Code of Federal Regulations, the Clean Water Act, that requires us per population size to pull weekly samples. So the health department is out here every week and they pull 5 samples a week. And what the problem is that they're going into somebody's front yard and right in their front, and they have to take the hose off and then turn the water on and run it. And, that's the way they do it. So what we're trying to do is get them out of that and just give them a straight spot where they can go to and just take their samples.
All right.
So we're gonna have 4 of those, 1 at each
No,
station?
it'll just be 1 station per community.
Oh.
Yeah, just
so-
in 11, the reason 11 is it's right in that central area. It's not going to be a big, huge eyesore, but there will be a post sticking up. And when I resend you that schedule, I'll send you a picture of it so you can kind of get an idea
So
of it.
how much is the test station gonna cost us to put it in?
Oh, we do it in-house.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, we do.
No, we don't.
let's check.
Go ahead.
We've been doing this now. We're trying to do about 5 to 6 a year until we get all 53 communities to have 1 station in there in each one. So just to let you know.
I'm just curious because years ago we had lift station with the one that I think we had problems with, number 11, which used to be our number 1.
Right.
And I've always been convinced because they complained that there was a lot of grease in the traps.
Mhm.
And that they were asking us to communicate to our community. And I'm going back some years now to, cut back on how much grease you put down into the sinks, let's say. Well, part of the problem is that the problem really started when they got the villages across the street going.
Mhm.
And you are aware of the fact I'm sure you are, dump into that first lift station. Everything goes there. And they will have a test on their side, I assume.
Mhm.
Okay. And the reason I bring it up, because everything upstream, and I brought this to the attention, I can't remember his name right now, at the time, and said, well, if we're the ones putting the grease in, are you finding grease in the lift stations that are upstream from number 1? And they weren't. It was coming from across the street. I don't know if
That one is historically, and a lot of that, what we found is because when they did that lift station over there, majority of them are between 15 to 25 feet deep. All of the ones in Stoneybrook. When you go to the villages, it's only about 12 feet deep. And what happens is your retention time. And when we go over there, we have big issues with mats of grease.
And it's coming our way.
and
But
it-
also,
it
they have a
will.
high percentage of renters over there, and I think probably, was
Right. And that station, again, if you look at the stats, if you look at all four of the stations that are in the Stoneybrook community, at like 11 o'clock, they just die. I mean, they might turn on once or twice throughout until about 7 o'clock in the morning. Then they start kicking up again when everybody gets up. If you look at the condos, because of the depth, it's all night long, turning on and on and off. And that's part of the rental community, which is much like Royal Greens. It's the same kind of thing. And we looked around all over the place and we find the same characteristics. But that one, for whatever reason, is shallow. So that when you have that shallow, short retention time, that grease will just.
Lennar saved money or something.
Sure, absolutely.
Anybody else have any questions for Ken?
Yes, sir.
The Stoneybrook lift station schedule,
Yes, sir.
Georgia sent to us on the 4th of February. We have it.
Probably didn't look at it that close. That's what it came down to.
In a perfect world, we'll go exactly by those dates, but again, there's a period in there. It's getting the people to come in to do the lining.
Well, they'll update us.
One
What's on that email?
other question. Our manholes out front, some of them have little white flags by them now and white paint on the grass.
Mhm.
What is that? What are they doing?
Locating, those are for utility locates underground. If you're seeing white paint in an area, that means they want that area. That's the area they want located.
No, there's one by my manhole and a couple doors up. There's one
He's
by
saying
there.
to buy the manhole itself. They could,
White paint on a manhole?
All right,
oh, I'm sorry.
The clean out?
I'm saying it wrong. Where your meters are on our water lines.
And there's white paint on there?
There's a little white paint on the grass right next to it.
That means somebody's calling in for locates.
And there's 2 or 3 on my street though.
Sure. I can look it up for you, but I
Would
haven't.
that be a result of the tests they're having problems with the transmission of information? That I know that they were even thinking about going to manual reading again in Stoneybrook at one time. I don't know if that's.
No, well, anytime you see a white paint line, meaning a mark, that is an 811, meaning FPL,
Yeah.
Comcast, Central Calling Locates. And what they do is they mark the area in white, that's the area they want.
Single line from that manhole to the sidewalk.
I'd have to go and see it, say, give me an address, I'll go out and actually look at it for you, find out, but yeah.
It's-
White paint on the road or in the yard almost always indicates 811. Somebody's calling for underground locates.
Somebody's been digging in my yard. I'd like to know about it.
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
Kenny, which one of the fence areas is going to be flipped to the side?
Station 12.
Well, yeah, that's like the second.
It's just
one in.
that front gate where the big opening is, it's going on the other side.
And
That's
then
the one on the left side of the road.
Right.
Every time the conversation is brought up on the lift stations, we always ask and make sure, and I've sent in emails about the color green that's on the other two.
Mhm.
While they're doing all of this flip and renovation stuff, are those going to be changed to black?
Yes.
Angela, I copied you on our communication. I asked, I was surprised that you didn't get back to me.
I didn't want to respond. I wanted to ask them.
Yeah, but he said that they were.
Okay, so
That-
you
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to
Yeah,
hear it
no,
today.
okay.
Yeah, and in that email, in that response, at one point, for whatever reason, I believe it was from Irma, was driven, that black slatting was just non-existent. And they were like years and years, it's gonna be 10 years before we get black
I've seen all the
slatting.
emails. I just wanted
Right.
to make sure I get the final yay today.
Yep,
Thank you.
those fences will be black. Okay,
Thank you.
okay,
Ken.
thank you all.
All right, we'll go real quick down the list. Oh, you gotta,
We got a doctor's appointment
oh,
for his kids.
okay.
He said he can try to call in, possibly.
All right, that's, we'll be okay. I know there might be some discussion he's interested in, but we'll.
So we just have to
All
look.
right, the minutes for January 5th. Guess we're going back a little bit.
These were tabled because there was a question about either the word any or some. So if anyone wants to bring that up, because I've reviewed the video.
Of what he
And,
said.
I can't remember.
and basically I can tell you the conversations that we had just questioning. When I think that what the questions were about was someone asking if anyone is at a meeting versus if there's a board member out there or if there's a board member sitting in there. He made it real clear at these meetings, the way that we are working needed to be set up where the Stoneybrook Advisory Committee and the Board of Directors meetings are listed as a duo and announced, and the minutes have to be taken for both. So that included anyone sitting out in the audience or any board member, not, he wasn't specifically talking about the 3 board members that happened to be on this committee.
Okay, I just want to say that there might have been a little bit of a mix up on that January 5th meeting, but we have been noticing these meetings. This one
Yes.
today is noticed, the one for the next board meeting at Stoneybrook is noticed. So essentially, we can talk, but this is a temporary situation.
I would like to make a motion to approve the
Well, is
January
anybody,
minutes.
okay.
Mine, right? Unless someone wants to bring that up
Well,
again.
somebody can second it and we still have a little discussion. We still have to
I'll
discuss.
second it.
All right, so we got Angela is making a motion to approve
Virginia
the minutes from
seconded.
January 5th. And Chris
Oh.
Capiello
Virginia
is second.
had it first.
Virginia
Oh, I'm
had it
sorry.
first, sorry.
I missed you there, Virginia,
That's all
sorry.
right.
So, all right, I'll take that back. So the motion was Angela's and the second was Virginia Stacy's. Any comments or anything here that anybody has seen? It's a little tough. I know I'm seeing this for the first time too.
Nothing's changed since last month.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved unanimously. Okay. Let's see.
February 2nd.
Yep. February 2nd meeting. Do we have any issues here, or Angela, is there something here that we should?
No, I'm really impressed with what Infomark pulls up on doing the minutes.
They have gotten better at it.
They really have.
I agree.
I was real happy with January and February.
Yeah,
They're just direct to the point.
yeah, less wordy and getting it pretty much right. I know in the past, sometimes they weren't sure who said what or
Or it wasn't
what
enough
was exactly
information.
said.
This is,
I do try to say who makes the motions and seconds, and if I forget, please remind me. At a quick glance, I don't see anything here.
so I'd like to make a motion to approve the February 2nd minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, Angela makes the motion to approve the minutes for February 2nd, and Virginia gets the second on that again. Any comments, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. All righty. Landscaping work group update. How are we doing?
Oh, we're just doing fine. I had to go to church, that's why I wasn't. Kids, send it to Georgia, and you should all have a copy?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, and you noticed that we did talk about the hole that was across from a third pound and the palm tree, and that's already been fixed on Thursday. So
Is this the one that was recently planted?
these were the palm trees that are planted on Bluestone side. Okay, and across from there on the walkway, there was a hole. I'm sorry, I used my hands.
Well, the thing is, this is one of the 3 that we put in to replace the trees that we took
Right.
down.
No, she's just using that as reference.
Those are
This is
references.
Oh.
Across the street, there
Oh, I'm
was,
sorry.
on the walkway, there was this big, big hole.
No kidding.
Okay, yeah.
Was it like a sinkhole? Was there a water leak there or irrigation leak?
There might have been at one time, but there wasn't it when we walked around it.
Okay.
It was all dry, so.
Where was that at? I missed it.
Okay, do you know where the palm trees are coming down Pebblebrook?
The 3 that we put
The
in.
new one.
trees,
The
the
new
new
ones we
ones,
put in,
right.
okay.
The last one across,
Yeah,
across.
on the other side of the street.
All right, there's a walkway and it goes up like this. Okay, and on this side of the plants, there was this big hole. Okay, but it's not there anymore because it was fixed.
So on this list, which one do we check off?
It says already, this has been fixed. It's right there.
The
Type-
second one. Got
Yep,
it.
I made sure I typed that in.
Only the one.
Okay?
Okay.
All right, there now. I did talk to Mainscape. They are not blowing along the pathway. They're not even blowing in the street. But, and I talked to Freddie about it, and I even mentioned it to Joe,
Mhm.
that, and I am going to find out, and I'm going to get Freddie's email address. I'm going to go to the office to get that, so I can email it, because they're still not doing it, and that should have been corrected already.
And you
too.
did talk to him by phone or text? or
I
something?
texted him, and I talked to him Thursday.
All right, so yeah, get an email. You know what? Let's maybe copy Laura or somebody like that, and include Jim. And I don't know if you have any communication, cannot contact with anybody above Freddie if nothing happens. So,
Um,
sometimes the shotgun approach works, and get it out there.
From past experience,
Okay.
yes.
Freddie's responsible to Jim, basically, so that
Yeah.
you should inform him.
Well,
I understand.
the availability of Jim, I'm not sure about that.
Jim is not going to be available. He's going to into the hospital.
He's gonna be gone for about 6 weeks.
So, just sending it to him would,
Yeah. No, it should go
Okay.
forward too.
All right, we did go look, and there's a tree, there's 2 trees. Okay, we really do need to get a proposal for that tree on Gemstone. It's getting worse, and I'm afraid that if we have a hurricane during this,
when you say the tree on Gemstone, is this,
in the cul-de-sac,
all the way down at the end?
cul-de-sac, right, it's there. And just take it down, and at least, even if you don't have the money now for it, you can probably budget it, because if sometime this tree, you can, if you go down there and you get out and you walk around it, you can actually see where it's starting to split.
This is
Okay.
the tree that, we had a beautiful palm tree down there, and years ago, it died. It's one of those Bismarcks, I think they call them. And what did they put in? They put in this rinky-dink
I know.
oak tree. Is
It's
this the one we're
this
talking
is the
about
oak
in the
tree, yeah.
middle of the?
Yeah,
I know that Lynn Lewis used to refer to it as the Charlie Brown tree. or
yeah,
something.
well,
Is that in the cul-de-sac?
Yeah,
it's in the
It's
cul-de-sac,
it's in the circle in the cul-de-sac.
right.
And they did plant that, and it always looked ugly. It never looked good.
And we
And
did.
And Freddie agrees it has to come down.
Mhm. Yeah, it's more now, as we've been watching, it's more now of a safety issue. We don't want it to kind of, if it got hit by lightning, it would cause a problem. If it got blown over, it would cause a problem.
All right, get a proposal, get
Yeah.
to us, and I'm sure we'll approve.
Well, I did put that out to Freddie. I said, whether you want to accept
Wanna
it or
take
not.
down and replace it, or we just?
Yeah, we
take it
want to
down?
replace it with either, it's right down here, a foxtail or a triple Christmas palm.
Triple Christmas.
Okay.
They're a Christmas palm, they're self-cleaning.
Yeah.
They're, if you come to my yard, you'll see it. And at Christmas time, it gets little red berries.
Oh, yeah, yeah, okay.
Okay, you know what I'm talking about? So that's why it's called a Christmas. There's another name, but Christmas palm is the one. Okay, at Muddy Creek in that cul-de-sac,
You're
Yeah.
jumping a little bit ahead,
okay,
because you got a red flag near Bluestone irrigation box needs a lid.
yes.
And
That wasn't Freddie, but I told Jim, and I told Jim to contact who needed it, okay? And if I get a hold of Kenny, again,
is this on someone's property, or is this?
no, this is at the corner.
I remember seeing.
Every time they
I-
work on the irrigation boxes, they lose a couple lids.
I
and
mean,
stains
we get out of the car and we do walk. I mean, Warren has seen us. I don't like to
And
stay
it
in the
is
car.
my understanding we're having an irrigation problem on that side of
Mhm.
Pebblebrook, and, but I'll leave it alone for now. Maybe you're getting to it. Okay, so we
Okay.
got, and someone should know about this irrigation box lid, and this is.
Yeah, I did tell Jim, and Jim was right there, and we looked at it, and I said, he goes, well, it needs a lid. I said, well, somebody needs to come do that.
Yeah, someone can trip and get hurt.
Right. Okay, well, you could start here at Bluestone, okay? If you go down, turn from Pebblebrook to Bluestone, all right along that way, you live there,
Mhm.
that you need to put some plants there. It looks terrible.
On
It's
the right side.
on the right side, yeah. So, and we're looking at light blue.
That right side's looking brown too. I
Yes,
don't know
it
if it's
is.
just the grass this time of the year or if it's just.
It
Well-
could be an irrigation problem there too.
Well, I've said, that if you go down to my third thing, irrigation problem along Pebble Brook, and I've mentioned it throughout the thing, and they said it was carpet grass and not an irrigation problem. That's what Freddie is telling me.
Well,
I'm telling him to check it out anyway, but
carpet grass needs more water and tends to turn brown in the dry season.
Yeah.
Ever since we've done the roadway,
Mhm.
the irrigation, I know at our end of Pebblebrook has not worked. I've recorded that through customer service through Jim, and he said he had gotten back with, he had already sent information over to Mainscapes to get it fixed. I heard they were out there once.
They were
That
out there this
grass-
morning.
Yeah, well, they were out doing everything up down, so I think they may have bigger problems than just when they turned it off. But I think, because I know the grass down by our area there is getting really stressed out, and it's just dying out there too. Just,
And the weeds moving.
yeah, there's no water on it.
Yeah, we need to,
if you would email me that, Warren.
I already gave it to Jim, and Jim already got it to Freddie to do that, so.
Yeah, but if you do that, when I go out with Freddie, if it's not done, I can mention it to him again and check with him. It's just like,
I gotta tell you, I think Freddie is at the limit of his capabilities. I think he gets overwhelmed sometimes.
They're still doing that project down in the,
I know,
but
I
even
know.
spring.
Yes, I know.
But we need to follow up on that because it is gonna have impact on how we look. There's no doubt about that. All right. Now you have something here about sidewalk lifted near Bluestone. What's going on with that?
That's the one that I keep reporting.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It is off except for favorites that come through and campus. My daughter is a favorite. Sorry about that. Okay, there, as you walk near Bluestone on the sidewalk side,
Mhm.
there, it's lifted up a little.
Bad.
What's lifting it? Do you know?
I don't know what's.
I'm not sure. It's fine.
Pictures.
I have sent in for 2 years complaints on this specific one that's gotten worse.
It's probably, this space is about 30 feet from Bluestone,
Yep,
and it's about an inch and a half
Yeah,
high.
it looks like a good inch plus.
Isn't
And it needs to get repaired. It's way beyond the,
And that's on our discussion today is the sidewalks, number 6.
See,
That's
so
one
I
of them.
do,
I don't know if you need to pass this out, but
those
Anybody want to see it?
people that didn't
There's
see
one
it.
in front of Margaret Steinberg's house too.
okay, I don't do,
You don't do any side streets?
No.
I don't do any side street, I just do the cul-de-sac. That was my assignment and the Pebblebrook, so I really walk those things.
Yeah, not only that, but the sidewalks and the side streets are, if it's the, a tree owners are the owner of the tree, if that's on their property, it really is their responsibility to deal with it. We notify them. That's what we should be doing, or at least the HOA should be notifying them. And that's the position of Gateway, and it's always been our position too.
We're gonna discuss that.
Number 6 for Pebblebrook.
Yeah.
Okay,
Only.
Okay.
Only.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he didn't assign me, Joe didn't give me that assignment, the side streets, just the,
No, it's already enough, I know.
because I have to drag these people.
Yep. Okay, so sidewalk lifted New Bluestone.
Okay,
Personally, and I'm looking, I'm looking at a picture here, it's hard to appreciate, but it would appear that we just can't keep on grinding these things down because we make it thinner and thinner. Do we want to replace that section right there?
That's why we need to discuss that on number 6 because that involves the companies and we need a liaison to walk with them and get a proposal.
Okay,
That's what we're supposed to talk about.
all
on
right,
number
so
6.
we'll go down to
Number 6.
number 6, all right.
So on this list, the only question I have is I've noticed where there were holes before plants are being put in. I was just concerned because we, the palm trees, remember when those were put in, taking a ride on Pebblebrook? They had to go back and add those little water stations to.
That's correct.
These plants that we've just put in recently, they're looking rough. So do they have those little water systems?
I thought
Or is
if-
somebody on a list watering them because they're looking like they're dying?
Well, we just got done talking about irrigation problems, so that could be the cause of that.
I
But
think they
yes,
need direct.
everywhere we had plants, there had been irrigation at those sites. And if they're not getting watered, there's a problem. We need to let them know, but you
So
know.
do I have to go take pictures and go, these are dying that we just put in?
If you take pictures and send them to me,
Okay.
then when I talk to Freddie, when we look at them, I can give him the pictures and to, when I go out, it will be with Freddie and not Jim.
I
It's
do
Jim
want
will
to
have
point
lose them
something out here
before.
though, if it's the sidewalk side, you're probably okay, but if you're on the running trail or whatever you want to call
It's
that,
the sidewalk side.
it is sidewalk
Yeah.
side. Because on that side.
I'll send you an email
the
later. It's okay.
Site, you know, that walkway meanders.
Mhm.
And there are places that are off the easement. So, you know, we're
Yeah.
not always.
I've actually seen
that's not
white
always our cup
sand.
of tea.
That's usually a sign where there's an irrigation head broken when you see white sand on the
Yeah.
pathway.
Yeah.
So there's a couple on that side, but I'm talking about sidewalk side.
Okay,
Okay, I'll send Kathy an email.
Thank you. All right, Muddy Creek, the
yeah,
cul-de-sac. Okay, I told them to get a proposal to remove the oak tree. We haven't decided yet because they need to remove the suckers and to check the irrigation there before we go to that, but just to be prepared. Okay, and again, check irrigation near Ivory Stone with the Mexican petunias. They're all dying. So, all right, at Pebblestone, the cul-de-sac to thin out the bromeliads, there's just too many. They need to thin them out a little bit. Okay, we have at the corner of Pebblestone and Pebblebrook, there's a green and white pipe. They just stick out and they're open. And I have no clue. Jim didn't have any clue where they went to. Mainscape had no clue, but if
they're
you,
gone?
they're there, they're
Oh.
just, you
What
did,
they were there
Yeah.
for.
Yeah, I think, wasn't that originally for some test that was done way
I don't know,
back
they've
when?
been there for 15 years.
I know, I think they've always been there.
okay, but I'm just, when I'm really walking and I'm checking all these,
You know, the person that probably would have been good to ask, I think might have been Kenny when he was here.
all right, well,
On that
I can go back
subject.
and
Yeah,
see him.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I've never seen anybody working around.
I know. I
Except
think,
kids throwing rocks down it.
Well, you know.
so are you suggesting that we remove them if we find out that they're,
If they're useless, you know, because they are open and now they're open, but the grass seems to be subsiding, receding, so that they stick up more.
Mhm.
So we want to,
Okay.
They're full of rocks, so they're
okay.
That's fine.
not vegetable.
All right. Stone Valley Loop, a cocoa plum needs to be replaced along the walkway. There's an open area. Okay. And Weatherstone, they treated the hibiscus on the 25th because the sign said it, but they still look like they're dying. So I said to Freddie, well, maybe they need to be treated again.
Hibiscus, yeah, it's
Yeah.
probably water. You're probably
Could be
right.
another irrigation problem,
Yep.
right? Okay, and the Exora between Ivory Stone and Stone Tower, they've been there. They're yellow Exoras and they don't seem to be blooming. So just when you go by, just kind of look at them.
Some of those are in the shade though, too.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if,
That might have something to do with it.
right, but it seems that we had to replace yellow Abricola a couple of years ago because they just wouldn't bloom either. So maybe there's
It
some,
might be the same reason.
right,
Now, this isn't the site that Elle was talking about planting something that was more low sun capable. Remember that? That was a few months ago, but
Yeah.
that subject came up and I brought it up because the place she was talking about.
I don't remember exactly where it
But I
was.
do remember just before she brought it, I mentioned it, I had kind of noticed that. And it was a shady area. How about checking with Elle? See if
Sure.
you're talking about the same place here.
okay, all right. And I'm just going through, there's vines in the Abricola near Ivory Stone Loop, and I already told you about gemstone, okay? And now across from Jim's, oh, sorry.
I can't find anything on Google spelled Abricola. You sure that's not Arboricola?
Did I spell it wrong? Abricola?
I think it's A-B-O-R.
Could be.
Probably is.
I can't find anything on there that's spelled like this.
Could very well be.
Well, they're green. Okay.
What kind of vines are you talking about?
There are vines. You go by there
Yeah.
and you can see these vines.
Yeah, but do you have any idea? Is this like that?
Weeds.
They're weed vines.
They're weeds.
They're
Yeah.
weed.
I've had them come into my
They're
place
weeds.
too. And they just run.
Yeah, and and to me, these are things that they should do
Without us
automatically,
even
and we shouldn't have to mention
I
them.
agree.
Okay. Now, across from Gemstone, near the lift station, we want to remove the dead Eugenia. Okay? Now, if you go by it and look, the Eugenia is kind of behind. Okay? So that if you remove it, you really might not have to replace it with anything, but if you did, the suggestion was,
That's the area where that one homeowner
Yes.
has the people cutting through
They just put
for
two new
lack of
plants.
bushes.
They put 2 plants there. I thought.
okay, no, but this is the, excuse me, I'm going to use my hands. All right, there's the, I think it's Cocoa Plum, okay? And we have the lift station and the Cocoa Plum. And then we have this Regina here. And in front of it, we have another plant. And I believe that's verbena. You can't, I don't pronounce it. So forgive me. Okay, and if you take those down, okay, then we can put where the lift station is, there's a couple of dead plants there, and we put the verbena there. You won't see behind them because of the way that you can move them, so you wouldn't need to put anything else there.
Is it gonna close up that hole that the,
It kind of will close up the hole, but the things that are behind are dead, and you can get rid of them and they won't look so bad.
Didn't we put something in there already? Did they die off?
Something was put in there and I think it was either it died off or it was worn away by these people that are cutting through the bushes. Because it was such a small specimen that they just stepped on it.
Yeah, right.
We need to find some kind of a plant to put in there that have like.
Crown of thorns.
2-inch thorns on them,
crown of thorns?
keep them away.
You know, what's that flowering bush that grows quickly once it gets established? It's pretty thorny.
Well, the brominates have they have
But
thorns
there's
on.
another
No,
one too.
it's,
Yeah, we got them right at the golf course.
yeah.
I have to cut my ankles on them all the time going back and forth. Yeah, I gotta get the name of those when I go to work.
It's a common name if I could think of it.
There's lots of them
You're not gonna
around.
mess with these.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got thick trunks and lots of thorn.
Kathy,
But they got green bushes and,
Yeah, so.
did we skip the one on the Gemstone cul-de-sac?
No, I talked about
No.
that.
Okay, so on that one, when it says like take down a tree, what is the type of tree again?
It's an oak tree.
Yeah, that's what we
So
said.
is
Yeah,
it
we
just
talked,
overgrown?
that's
No,
the Charlie
split.
Brown oak.
that's the one we talked about, that
It's split.
it's cut in.
Okay, I gotta look at it.
Okay. Yeah,
Splitting.
that I talked about right at the beginning for a few minutes.
Oh, there's not a picture.
Yeah, that actually is a replacement tree. It's not original.
Sorry. And when it's growing, there's no center. It's growing out this way.
Got it.
So that's why when it gets hit, it will. Okay. Now, and the last thing is the shrubbery that when you turn the curve coming into Gateway, that I've been asked, this has been given to me, that it is a sight problem, that you can't see the cars coming because the shrubbery's too high.
As you're pulling in or leaving?
No, you know, when you come in and you start to turn, and if you want to go into the clubhouse, right? You can't see those cars coming. So it was a suggestion, maybe the shrubbery should be cut down or back a little because we
Oh,
don't want
around the bend, you
Mhm,
mean?
yeah.
Okay. got the part
but that's a
about the bend.
thought. That's just there. Okay. You did also get the proposal from my last,
Yeah, I can't say that's here.
No.
you didn't get the proposal?
This was a while ago, wasn't it, that came out?
This is the proposal that Freddie gave to me last Thursday.
Oh.
And he
Oh,
updated
we
it.
just don't have it.
No, I
And
don't have
he
that.
was told to send it to Jim, and Jim said, okay. And I said, Jim, to make sure Georgia gets it, to give it to the board.
It's okay.
Do you want me to have Georgia copy it?
Yes.
To the committee, but yeah,
Whatever the,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, but
to,
we gotta watch nomenclature here because the board.
to send it to the gentlemen and ladies
Yeah.
over here in front of me. Do you want me to have Georgia copy it, so you have it? Because I was gonna discuss anything.
Sure.
Okay.
How many pages are there?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
That's a lot.
So they're different proposals.
These
separate-
are proposals of what I talked about before, and it goes by street exactly, because I asked that he put it out so you would understand where it is. Okay?
We need to see the,
How
So-
much, let me ask you a pertinent question here is, what kind of money are we talking there? Are these like $100, $200, or are these like
These are thousands.
we need to see that.
So what I do is I'll make copies, and then you can look at them over, okay?
All right.
And these are the ones for the site, the streets to make the site, driving the site.
Improve the line of
Yeah,
visibility.
that's it, whatever. Okay.
Yeah, we have a couple intersections that it's an issue.
Yes.
I agree.
And then there were some at the corners that we wanted to make sure they looked decent, because when you make one site good, the other one will look strange.
What we can do is take a look at this. I don't think we're gonna make a decision on that today.
No, I
possibly
didn't, I
next
thought,
meeting.
that's why I thought,
But we can ponder it, take a look in the community, check it out if we know where it is. And if it's a lot of money, maybe we'll, prioritize and see, that'll be open for another discussion another day, I think, which
Okay.
ones to do.
right, but
Can
I did
have-
ask him
Just
to
to see
bring.
if it's in those proposals, we had talked about before, so I may be asking this again. When you go to the very end, the last stop for Stone Valley, and you take that left, the Beeler House, the first one, where we took out those really large. I saw some hedges put in there like 2, but aren't we supposed to put a palm tree somewhere? And I missed that.
No, we already
No,
know.
just
That's all
checking.
we know. That's all we know.
Probably asked before, and I apologize. I wanted to.
It might have been discussed, but we decided
Okay.
not to. It's kind of close to that house. It
Yeah,
really
too
is.
close.
So
We put
just
a
did 2
bush, the
hedges.
bush died, and that's what one of the things, or replace things we got it on this list.
Yes,
They're gonna replace it. It's very hard right there because of they couldn't cut some of the wood out because would have cut down a whole bunch of the bushes.
Yeah, I think also it might be getting impacted because it's not getting enough water.
Yeah,
Well,
well, that's, right now, that's the big problem. Ever since we've done the road, they shut all the irrigation off. Everything is just drying, because we've not had any rain, the wind's been blowing, and it's just drying up
Yeah,
real quick.
It was only
Shutting
over a
off the
couple days.
irrigation should not have broken everything.
I didn't say it shouldn't have, I'm saying since they shut it off,
And it's back
we haven't had
on,
anything in our end
but not
and
on your area.
since that time. And that grass is just very, very stressed.
So the irrigation's back on, just not in your section.
Well, I don't know how much it's on. I saw a little piece on today, but that's.
Does
about it.
anybody think maybe a phone call into 561-1313 to Gateway to help us out here?
Well, I've already sent one thing to customer service and Jim's already forwarded. Not sure. I heard that there were some irrigation people out last night working on it. And then I saw some people today and stuff. So I don't know how they prioritize or what they do. But, I saw one guy, he was turning something on by the lift station. I said, was that potable or is that irrigation? Well, that's irrigation water. But I'm assuming he turned it on the way, because it was right after the thing, but I haven't seen the water on yet. So I don't know what happened.
Now that you mentioned, I really haven't seen water on that
No,
side either.
no, have not been there. So, yeah.
All right, and keep banging on it from your end. That's all I can say, but.
okay, well, I will go get Freddie's email, and I will email him that there's really a lot of irrigation problems that need to be checked. Okay, but first I'll have Georgia make copies so you
And
can.
I
check
gotta
these.
tell you something, they're gonna ask us to shut it off again when they paint the lines in the road. Hope we're not gonna be back.
Well, you
there.
know what? Tell them to paint the lines in the road in between
I thought it was the beginning.
the irrigation. You know what?
I don't think they have any irrigation hits or in the middle of the road.
Yeah, there shouldn't be.
And it's
And
only,
That's right.
And
Shouldn't be.
Shouldn't be, but it may be.
we don't strike all the way down Pebblebrook
No, we don't
It's
start
only
with the
by 80
crossroads.
Crosswalks.
and the crosswalks.
And
going
the
across.
crosswalks is all we're really doing.
yeah, so they shouldn't be,
Yeah, the side streets
Tell
should
them to
not
put
have
on
it,
raincoats.
and, those crosswalks are fine.
don't put on raincoats.
All righty.
Okay, I'm gonna go make that perfect copies.
Kathy,
Thank you,
you're doing- I
Kathy.
just want to tell you, you're doing an awesome job.
Well, thank you.
I mean, this is all stuff that we probably never would have even seen.
I just wish I had a
Nice to
picture
have
to go,
people
oh, I know where that's at.
Right on this.
I gotta go
Well,
look
you
at it.
know, it's,
That's why I asked her to do it.
Yeah, and here we are, what, a month or two into it. It was a great decision.
well,
Good
thank you.
checklist. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have a question for Kathy? before
I'll
she
be
walks
back,
away?
I'm just getting.
So when we
Alright.
get these copies back, are we discussing them?
We're gonna look at it, evaluate it, and then we'll discuss it next thing and approve what we want to. Is that okay?
Maybe what we should do in going forward, if she's gonna do
Seven.
something like this every time, maybe she should put them like in order of importance.
Yeah, that's asking a lot of her. And not only that, but you
But she-
know, those
but
decisions
she-
maybe should be.
She would have the best idea because we don't have a
Yeah,
picture.
yeah.
I trust her
Yeah,
to make
like if she says,
the
this,
best call.
this tree needs to come down in the cul-de-sac, it's lifting up the concrete, doing this and that, and that's number one.
I think this list is as long as it is because we're doing some catch up right now.
Yeah.
Correct.
And that in the future, hopefully the list won't be this long.
I don't think this one's quite as long as the last one.
Could be.
I think there were 7 proposals last time.
Or
Like, they were all little ones. Yeah.
Yeah, the little ones, I wouldn't,
7 different
but for thousands of
proposals.
dollars, like, we gotta see them. We gotta see what's going on. All right, landscaping work group. Discuss that past due invoices from IQ and Cypress Access. Okay. Myself, Laura came,
Interrupt you a second. You want that information? We just got the concrete company for the back.
okay, can you text that to me?
Yep.
Okay. Laura, myself, Chad, Lou, and Carmen did a phone conference with New IQ. And, you know, to express our concern, to tell them our opinion that their billing was ridiculous, the number of times we're billed for the same thing. Their position was that all this was due to damage from people hitting the, you know, the gates and everything. It's bogus. They gave us a break on some of the belt charges for coming out. And, you know, and it was like talking to a wall when I said, well, why weren't they following up or finding these things when they're supposedly coming out monthly to service them or at least check them? And, oh, we were out there every month. And that's not what I had heard. He said, claimed they were out there every month,
I
man.
thought they were supposed to provide documents.
Well, supposedly they gave them to Carmen. I think it's BS.
Because we
Carmen-
requested it.
Carmen's sitting there going, you know, as the guy's talking. And in all honesty, came to the opinion, I looked at Lou, I looked at Chad, and it seemed to be the consensus is let's put
Thank
this to
you.
bed and move on. And that's what we basically did. We got some credit, but you know, I can't say I'm happy. Thank you, Kathy. Boy, that was quick. And so you're all set. I guess you are. So I just want to say, we went through this process. I want to let you know, I don't know if you want to have a vote on it or not to ratify it, but we moved money from the non-dedicated funds. $10,500 was moved over to gatehouse maintenance to pay this bill, which was like 10-3 or something like that. And told him we'd get it to him get a check out by this coming Friday, and I think it's already done. And I made it quite clear both to Chad and you that we will not pay any more bills to them and do not use them, and made the suggestion. I think they have hooked up, and you can confirm that with
Action automatic.
Action Automatic Door, and hopefully we'll have a better experience. There is a contract that I believe is signed. It's going to be signed.
Oh, I signed it. I think she sent it in.
Okay.
I don't know who she sent it to.
We should be getting, you know,
$975.
yeah, I'm sure we'll be seeing that.
Quarterly.
It's going to be a quarterly inspection and maintenance. We'll still pay for things to get fixed, but at least we won't be paying these trip visits. Once we're in this contract, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's no upcharges for weekends or nighttime when they
I
come out.
don't think so, and I think I remember seeing a 10% discount on any parts.
10% discount. So hopefully this will be good, and hopefully things will get fixed better, for lack of a better word. Because I have to tell you, we were paying between Cypress and New IQ probably more than double than we've ever paid in any previous year.
Ridiculous.
It was a ridiculous amount of money.
Now we're writing a contract with Action Door.
There is something that they gave us a proposal, And we should have it, and Gateway should have a copy of that too, for their file.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Coming out of Old Fork, gotta have a
Yeah.
copy of that contract.
So
And who's gonna administer the contract? Carmen?
I would suggest, and which leads me into another thing I'm going to discuss. I'm not even sure if it's on here.
Could I just make a comment to Kathy so she can leave?
Sure.
When you stepped out, just wanted to let you know a suggestion was made, because we trust you to make the decision. Because some of these add up a little bit, could you put them in an order and get back to us? Like, here's number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4.
Or just number to your priority, what you think would be most.
The more.
This has to be done. This can wait.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll look them up, okay. And I'm on my way to see Kenny. That's where I'm going.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Kathy.
Thank you.
That's
Sorry,
why
good job.
I'm leaving, because I want to catch him before he's gone.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for everything.
As part of discussion, and I would know, and Chris couldn't be there, I wish he had been, but with Lou and with Chad, I made it clear that it really is, as it is in the MOU, it is the association's responsibility to look over and maintain these things. It really isn't the committee's. Our job is more of a financial and oversight, to work with them to raise funds and do a budget to maintain these things. In any case, Carmen is aware of it, and I believe the others are aware of it. And while we're sitting there, Laura made a suggestion. It's something we need to contemplate. I think you've brought it up before. I think your wife has brought it up before. And that is the Pelican plan, the procedure they use, which is they come up with a monthly amount that usually would be required for maintenance and a budget. So let's say if we have X number of dollars, 2 months worth is sent to the camp. Now, is Carmen up to that? I don't know, because she's not Scott, by any stretch of the
We're not there
imagination.
yet.
They set up a special checking account because you can't commingle the funds
Yeah,
between the HOA and the CDDs.
No
That's why
question.
it's a separate fund on that. And in talking with Scott prior, when we first started stirring this up a little bit, he said he handles it himself. Everything is done. He sends the invoices in here and they reimburse that account all the time. They keep it, that's a
yeah,
ACH. It's not, here's a check, go deposit.
exactly. So it's a constantly updated amount that's sitting in this account that you can dip into. It's available. Then they replace it to bring it back to that agreed upon figure. And I'm not suggesting and say, yeah, this is the way we gotta go. It's something to think about, something to talk about going forward. I'm still not completely sold, but it could be something that might solve some of this problem. Because right now, what happened here was not acceptable. Things were getting out of control down at the gatehouse with repairs and repeating problems of fixing the same thing. And while they're sending us bills, we can't, as a committee, control that. We don't have that capability of controlling that. And I know we rocked the boat a little bit when we refused to pay them, but somebody had to do something and, say enough's enough. This is ridiculous.
And the boat got rocked and we saved $2,000.
Yeah.
Well, I think, the key thing, even with any contract, is you gotta have someone who's responsible for the contract, someone following up with them. What kind of information were they feeding back to the CAM or to whoever was in charge? There should be a report coming back in. I get for our irrigation that they do monthly, I get a list of all the different ones that where the problem is, what they cost, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
And I can veto whatever. But every contract needs to have it. Same with our landscaping. I argue all the time with our landscaping people, but it's sometimes going over everybody's head. But it still comes down, and this whole maintenance agreement, was written in 2012, approved by the Board of Supervisors, approved by the Board of Directors, the HOA, and was never really followed. And I think we need to get into that, but I also think we need to sit down and review it, because there's some things in there that
we
need
might
to
not be
change after
comfortable with.
12 years. You know?
And Tony was gonna look into reviewing that. And
Okay,
Tony
good,
was gonna
good.
look into what would need to be done and to make suggestions.
Yeah.
And I think part of the problem way back then was we weren't sure that's what we wanted to do and money was still tight.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, and I gotta say this, the person that sits as, in our office as our CAM has to be a very responsible person.
Yep.
Because we're really relying upon him and that person needs to have oversight from the board. There's almost no way out of that to do it.
Yeah, and I know-
Because the MOU, as the document you're talking about, has a list there and every single
Yep.
item is
The-
homeowners association.
the CDD, and as we talk about some of these other things here, shouldn't be involved in getting different RFPs or anything. That should come from the board because, and I hear people talking, well, you know, it belongs to CDD. Yeah,
Yeah.
it belongs to the CDD, but
But
it's
we're
our
responsible.
property.
I know.
It's our property. And if we
Exactly.
don't push on it and do it ourselves sometimes, it's not going to get done in the timely fashion. So I think we need to, you know, say, hey, board or whoever, you got a problem with the sidewalk, here, get a proposal together and let's get it fixed. Don't put it over to here, to here, to here. So,
Well, part of the thing is that, you know, the boards change and some of the
Yeah. Oh,
people. And in
Cams have
particular, something that, and comments have been made, oh, we paid them. They have to do these things. That, you know who said that. And unfortunately, our current treasurer doesn't always get it either. That, you know, and I'm glad he was there to hear Laura say some of the things that she said concerning some of those issues. And whether or not it
the only
sunk
difference,
in, I really don't know.
to me, as I looked at the maintenance agreement signed in 2012 and the one signed in 2008, I think the first one that we had, the only difference between the
first one was
six,
2006.
the only
And-
difference
and-
was we were collecting the money.
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
true.
That's the only big difference. Everything went, because now they're doing it.
Yeah, and well, we did that because
Oh,
taxation.
the best.
You know,
Don't want to change that.
I forced that, and I agree in this. And Laura did bring up the issue, and I want to point it out, that when we do collect through taxation, and we got a budget for it, we do almost lose the entire 4%, which is the discount people get when they pay ahead of time.
Yeah.
So that's a cost of doing business right there too, that if you collected with dues, you wouldn't have to eat that. But then you got the flip side, you know what? The county and the district basically become a collection agency. And I mean, think about it. Pelican, that's how they raise the most of their money is. The community does it for you and you always get paid. The banks always pay their taxes if it's foreclosure. Not a problem right now, but you know, it certainly had been in the past and I certainly hope not. We never go there again.
And it takes forever for the HOA to go after somebody to get their assessments paid, because they got to go through all these different steps.
There are rules from
Yeah,
720.
oh, so much rules.
I know.
And then the taxation is so much easier.
Yeah.
And it's there. So I think that's the only way to go for us.
And when was the last time the MOU was updated? What's the last?
2012.
2012 is correct.
So we just redid and updated our resolution, so.
Yeah, we need to be.
This is the next step, and
So
that's
we
why
can-
I'm bringing
If
it
we put
up.
it on the agenda, then we're going to be working on it soon, and it is something that needs to be done quickly. You have 7 members, it's going to be 5 members soon. How fast does the MOU need to be worked on, or is it something that's just process?
I think it's a process. You're not going to do that fast, okay? Because there's going to be things that are serious that have to be discussed, and you really want to think them through. The impact it's going to have on both sides, the CDD, this committee, and the HOA. Because right now, if we follow the rules, I'm telling you, the HOA is doing a lot more work than they are right now. The burden really does fall
It would be,
upon them.
right?
And the office, who's working in that office.
And it should be that way.
I know.
So is-
Well, I always say the HOA runs the community, not us.
So has it been put into an attorney's hand to begin the process? Because you would want to start there to get the lawyer's opinion on the way things are done. Just like we had to go back and we had to get Pierce's opinion on the resolution.
Well, if we get a recommendation from Tony, and this is just speculation on my part, and you know, certainly Chris would have to get involved because the president, but we would have to get our attorney in. And we would, as a board, would have to sit down and review it and give opinions. And it doesn't require, you know, a ratification or a proxy vote, but it is really a board decision and the board here, but the fact is that there's things that gotta be talked
So
about.
this committee has to start the process to hand it over
We
to the
planted
board.
the seed with that particular meeting, Laura gets it, and she made the suggestion, and I said, well, let's look into it.
Okay.
And she said that she would contact Tony to try to get the ball rolling. Now, is that ball going to get rolling real quick?
Oh, it's okay. I just want to know that it has started rolling
Go,
because
Tony.
2012, it's time to update everything.
Yeah, the update really comes down to, in my opinion, and after reading it and seeing all the stuff that we're dealing with here,
Mhm.
I think the MOU calls for 2 months of operational money.
Yeah.
I think we need to increase that mainly because the cost of things have gone up. Then there's the other issue of the $5,000 upgrades and stuff that we're supposed to, those kinds of things need to be reviewed, and those costs probably need to go up too because,
Well, I gotta
Everything
tell you
has gone
something. The way that reads is a little confusing because the way it reads, and this goes all the way back to the 2006. And understand this, in 2006, that document is much different than the one in 2012 because Lennar actually did own the assets at that point in time. They didn't turn them over until turnover.
Yeah.
And in fact, it stated what they were going to do very clearly in the development order. But I don't know about you guys, but I never thought about reading the development order. But it states it there, what the plan was and how they were going to fund it. And at the closing, the things they were going to do about turning over assets, about turning over the lakes, which was a good thing. But a lot comes into play here. We really are. I know.
we got the short end out of that. But
I will say this, that at that point in time, we were scrambling. We agreed to some things because we were under some pressure. And it wasn't just financial, it also had to do that access to our community and pressure from some of the people that were sitting up here. It was not a good time. It wasn't easy. But in any case, we've survived all these times.
I think in listening to the board of supervisors talk, and then you listen to this, like when Brian was here and some of the other folks around, they don't want to deal in Stony because there's just so much stuff going on. They can't get their other stuff done. And with that maintenance agreement, we should be doing some of this. And I think they've kind of pushed us that particular direction, but I don't think we're ready as an association to jump into it.
As long as they continue to own it, they have somewhat some
Oh,
responsibility.
no question.
We
no
can
question about
agree
that,
to
yeah.
hold them harmless and all that kind of stuff. But let me tell you
And I-
something,
and I
that's
think-
not the way it works out.
I think the real positive thing is I think we have like Laura, who is well in tune with most of these things.
Mhm.
And she will stand up and say no or yes, and you can take it to the bank. I mean, she's very, very knowledgeable. and
She's a
very-
bright woman, and I think we have a good relationship with her
Yeah.
right now. We can talk to her and how things shake out, of who's gonna have what title when they finally do fully man the staff. I have no idea how that's gonna work out. But I will tell
They
you
don't
this issue with the bills, with
No, I can't.
the electricity,
Oh, the
there were
aerators?
people with the irrigation, the pumps, for the air pumps for the lakes. They knew we were paying something. we
That was
shouldn't
the
have.
aerators, right?
The areas. They knew it. It wasn't a secret. And they withheld it. And the ADP, I am confident that, there was somebody here who knew what was going on, that we were paying something we should not have been.
That was before Laura.
Oh, well, yeah, she had nothing to do with it.
So-
But I will say that the fact is that the way that both ours and the district's ADP bills were miscoded and referred to as utility. And the fact that as soon as we uncovered it and stopped the payment, they canceled the contract for them too. Something there just doesn't, you know what I'm saying here without actually saying it. But something wasn't right there. And in any case, this is one of the reasons that I resist, and I say it all the time. I really don't want to have a lot of extra money in that account. It's vulnerable because, like, and you know it, they consider that their money.
Gotta be,
Careful.
everything's gotta be documented, and only one person should be doing it, and maybe one board member overseeing
I don't
what's
know.
going in there.
I'm just throwing it out because it's something we got to think about and discuss.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, something which is hard to believe now when I look back upon it, but at one time, all the money went into one bank account. Ours, 02, 03, and other things all went into the 001 bank account. Effectively, the only way you could track this stuff was on paper. And therefore, some would jury rig the numbers. It was almost impossible to figure or find out. It was tough back then.
That's what Brian did.
Well, that's what he did with that. But this,
Trees.
at least we had separate accounts. It was documented. But having everything in one account, it was like, when a bunch of companies own all the oil in that tank over there. When someone gets in trouble and there's a lawsuit, it gets ugly because whose oil is whose and who pays for it. I'm just using an example that I'm familiar with. And that's sort of what was happening there. Money was not well controlled, but I think times are much better now. But how we handle this going forward, and I think there was a comment, I'll go there. And I think this is up for discussion, that we've had 7 people for a long time. And we started with 5. I was not in the initial group, but I do want to say that next month, be prepared to discuss whether you want to stick with 5 or 7. And if you're going to stick with 7, because we're probably going to lose some members. And I think next month we'll have an idea of who's going to have to step down, because we did agree and got approved last month the resolution, the new resolution for 2022. And in that resolution, they do give us the flexibility of having 5 or 7. It could be 6 if you want, but 5 or 7 makes sense because it's easier to get a majority and reach a quorum. Because if you stick with 7, you're probably going to have to go out and pick some people up. If you stick with 5, we're going to probably have to drop, and that's fine. And then if you want to change it, the committee goes to request to go back to 7, you go to the supervisors here, get an application, make a request.
Are we on number 7? I want to make sure discussion wise, we are jumping to 7 or not?
Yeah, all right, let's go back to, I'll go back. I did, I
You can do either
ran
one.
those things together.
I'm just trying to.
Well, let me come back to number 7, okay, or the sidewalks, because, and that's when you're talking about that we
Yeah,
skipped.
we can go back. I
Yeah.
just want to make sure I'm.
Because this particular resolution, it's pretty tight. I don't have any major problems with it. I don't know if you've seen it. You should have seen
You
it.
have a copy.
Okay,
Everybody's
everybody's got a copy. Take the time to look at it. It's essentially, for the most part, what we've asked for. It's, a lot of it is work that was done by Warren and tweaked by us. And they agreed to it. They approved it. And the biggest change there is we're going to limit ourselves to 1 board member, which eliminates the problem that we have at our own meetings, our own board meetings, that, we can talk about things. Yeah, it does.
It doesn't matter if you're on the, if any of us show up, there's still a possibility of violating the sunshine law at our board meetings.
He made it clear you just can't.
Well, yeah, they're gonna be noticed from now forever.
If you want to talk about,
Till
yeah,
May, I
with
thought.
people in the committee, but somebody, whoever comes from this committee and makes the presentation or talks about what the report on the meetings and what happened at the last meeting, that person can talk to the board and report, and they can have a discussion amongst the board or with that individual. I even always have a little bit of a problem of whether or not talking is actually making decisions or doing something illegal. And the subject matter, I mean, you can't restrict two people from communicating about anything that happen to be on the same committee. And let's think about this. Has any committee decision ever been made at a board meeting?
I don't think Tony looks at it that way.
It could be, but if,
And I want to say, I mean, what, a year, 13, 14 months into this, when I first joined this committee, and even at that first meeting in January, Chad had said, I think it's a great thing that the president is on that committee. I got to tell you now, 13, 14 months later, I don't think the president of the HOA belongs on this committee. And and I'll give you the reason.
go ahead.
I can't talk to Joe or any of you about anything. I want to find out from the board of directors' point of view. I want updates on different things. I can't talk to you if we're both on the committee. So,
And you're not supposed to be reporting back to the board
yeah.
when there's other
It
committee
may
members
have
on the
been,
board.
it may have been a good idea when it first came about. Oh, yeah, that's great. But now when you try to live it,
Yeah.
you can't live it.
Well, let me just, I'll send out a speculation. And I'll give a scenario. Let's say that I win and I'm on the board. Let's say that JT wins and he's on the board and Margaret's, it doesn't really matter. Let's say those three people win. Margaret's already agreed to possibly be part of a work group here, so that wouldn't be a conflict there. I would step down. I would step down and be a board member. I could possibly participate as a work group member and certainly be in the room that if there's questions or make some recommendation how to handle a problem or help with the budget. But, and I assume you're saying then you want to step down if since you'll be.
I don't want to, but I
No,
have to.
but
And here's the thing, if I'm not reelected president at the end of the month, then it doesn't matter because I'm.
then you'd feel all right to be a board. Yeah, that's why, and let me just say this because it was not perfectly clear, but they gave us until May 1st, if you read the
After
document,
the election.
to be able to make our committee change. Because that way, after our election, we'll have time and
It's got to be before May 1st.
Yes.
It takes effect May 1st, so our
That's
next
correct.
meeting is the meeting we're going to have to make the tough decision.
that's actually correct. And I'm not sure, did anybody check the calendar when that comes in versus when the
2
election
days,
is?
I think, like a couple days after the master election.
Okay, so then we'll know who the winners are and it
We'll
shouldn't be a
know,
problem.
yeah.
Because I was going to suggest if it was the other way around, maybe we want to delay that meeting.
You have
till
to
the
remember,
following
you
week.
brought up president, you're still on the board, even if you're not reelected president, you're still on the board for another year.
Well, correct.
Correct, so.
But then
But
theoretically,
as president, you have to interact with this group or, for instance, I couldn't walk out on the street
No, you don't.
and
Just don't
talk to
touch
either
anybody.
Joe or Warren and say, hey, how's this process going with the rejuvenation?
technically you're in violation.
Can't do it.
And then you
Even though
also
there's no
have,
decisions being made or nothing backhanded. It's-
Right.
Or even talking to him about the meeting with New IQ. That's why I wasn't there, because I wasn't allowed to be there. That's why I asked Lou to go.
And Lou was able to tell him what went on, but that's why I'm bringing it up here so everybody else knows.
and I think I've made it real clear, I would love to work on a work group rather than be here because I will be on the board for another year.
I
So-
anticipate
I was the first one to say. I
that
will
three of
step
us are
down.
going to be gone,
Okay,
okay?
That could be, yeah.
I have no problem with that. That's
Unless
my
you
goal.
if you get elected to the board,
Yeah, if I don't, then it's a non-issue.
it's not an issue because we'd already have probably JT because he's the senior person on the board that's on this committee.
That's true.
Yeah.
And seems to be adamant about wanting to stay too.
Oh, he
really
did, he
does.
is, yeah. No
And
question,
so,
yeah.
if others are willing.
But
to
if he
stay,
doesn't get reelected,
That's a moot point.
that's like it's good to wait until the next meeting.
That's why we
because
brought
you
it
don't
up.
know. Yeah, you don't
That's why
know.
we brought it up and
Yeah.
delayed it as long as we
Yeah,
could.
because the 7 people that we have here now, we wish we could keep, but moving
Yes.
forward, we can't. So
It just,
the decisions have to be made, and I've
Yeah.
already made it clear, but I would like to work in a work group.
Yep.
Because I'm on the
Yeah.
board automatically for another year, so.
And I'm willing to give my time up, at least for a year, on a work group to help. And that work group may be dealing with some of these issues of the changes that are coming up. And also, I know that Margaret's offered to, work with us as far as the budget, and also the vendors, if we have contract issues with vendors, because that's very difficult to do. If, in fact, we're trying to do it, because we don't have the ability to talk. Now, I will say this, the office here wants these proposals for, requests for proposals to come from the HOA board and from the HOA office. That's what they would much prefer to see us do and keep them in the loop. So I'm telling you, that's gonna be another change of responsibility there. And then we could review it, or this committee could review it and approve or no, and see if they agree. But that's gonna bring the board into this decision-making process too, I believe, because they're gonna wanna have a say, just like they did with the security contract. And, the board did that.
They did most of the work on that.
And we just basically rubber stamped it.
Yeah.
If there was a problem, we could have brought it up, but, it seemed to be okay. But that's probably,
That's the way it should
going
be.
forward, the way it
I
should
can-
work, right?
Actually, I can see looking down the road, and I'm not saying this year, but maybe in a year or two, if this procedure gets into, going with the HOA, doing all these different things, won't need this committee because there'll be no real need for a check and balance if it's working. But it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be a tough decision.
The
Not only that, your
reason,
board changes
yeah,
every
but
year, different members, so
And-
it's hard to
but-
depend on.
it's difficult to take that responsibility and move it back and forward though.
Yeah.
But the reason this committee was created in the first place was to do a budget. And to be able to raise the funds through
Yeah.
taxation to do the things that we wanted to do. And at that point in time was a very limited scope. For obvious reasons that we've talked about, we expanded the scope. We requested that. That wasn't, Chad was under the impression that the CDD pushed that or requested it. No, we did, because it made sense for us, because we collected money and we saved money by saving sales tax. And then, and when we shifted things from the HOA dues, which we did, if you recall, in 09 and 10, the dues actually went down 2 years in a row because we had shifted so much over to taxation. And that's the story. But I'm just trying to plant a seed here, make you realize and think about what's coming.
We know what's coming.
Let me ask the question again.
Sure.
How does this, losing the board members off of this committee, how does that solve our problem at the HOA board meeting?
Because it does solve the problem in the sense that the
board can
committee,
Discuss it amongst themselves.
and with the person who is the spokesman for the committee. That person still has the ability to communicate with the board and.
Correct, but then the one board member who's a member here has to shut up if there's a discussion.
Unless that person is the person who's doing the presentation.
That's true.
And the easy way is to not verbally present, but just hand it in just like other committees do as minutes.
Yeah, I gotta tell you something, though. You can hand minutes in, but it isn't the same thing as
Oh, I
having a
agree.
discussion,
I
having the
agree,
ability
but
to
we're
ask
dealing with
questions.
the
and
sunshine
whatnot.
law and we've got to be extra careful.
Yeah, but
And that seems to be
So are
what
we
people
still
are
gonna
questioning.
notice the meetings?
We have to now
Our
till
board
May
meeting?
1st.
we have to, up until May 1st. And if we want to do it, we can. That is certainly an option going forward. You can.
Do what? I missed that.
To avoid, if there's discussion at a board meeting, HOA board meeting, somebody like yourself, myself might be in the audience, or I might be up at the table. If in fact there is a discussion about what goes on at the committee and that person is from the committee. Like, recently, I think the only person who's not there from the committee is Virginia. We're getting 6 people showing up at these board meetings. We're a substantial proportion of the crowd out there.
I was gonna say, you wanna know what's going on, you gotta be there.
We just approved these minutes from January where it says, Mr. Pierce advised the committee that if more than one committee member, SBAC, will be attending future HOA board meeting, that meeting needs to be noticed as a meeting of the, end of story. It doesn't
Yeah.
say May 1st.
You have to combine,
There's no ending
All right,
date
so
on
we
it.
have to notice it and we have to keep minutes.
Yep.
We have to keep
The
minutes.
Well,
minutes-
didn't we agree
minutes have
that
to be
just the
combined.
minutes from the whole board,
no, he said they have,
a
Sorry.
separate set of minutes?
no, sorry, they have to be combined and presented as one because you're having one meeting.
So your minutes,
But that's what we're based on.
So Carmen's minutes with these minutes have to be combined when we approve minutes moving forward. That is what's coming.
And now I have a problem with that. I don't know if these minutes, really, think about this. Because we
I'm
have
sorry.
met the requirements of having only one board member, why do these minutes have to be part of the minutes
I
with?
said that wrong. I said that
Okay,
wrong.
all right.
Stop. You're up there giving a report. Minutes will be made from your report, which you will give to me. And then I have to give that to Carmen. Carmen has to do the board meeting minutes and then enter that as another set of minutes. They will be combined. They have to be presented together as a final minutes from the meeting.
And I can see them coming this direction.
Yes,
Okay.
they
Yeah.
should be here for us to approve
Yeah.
also.
Now,
Go ahead.
my understanding was going into this HOA advisory committee meeting all the same, that one of the pitfalls was that the minutes from that meeting and the video from that meeting all has to be sent here, everything, which opens up the HOA minutes to full public records requests, not just HOA requests, but the whole thing.
That's
So,
correct.
so things would open up. And that's been my understanding of it. That's why I disagreed. Wasn't real crazy about that aspect
But-
of it. But again,
Let's say this, there has never not been a board member on this committee.
Yeah.
Except from before I got there. For a very brief period of time that this committee existed before I got there, and Dave Leatham and myself came
Yeah.
at the same time. And we're both board members at the time. And for probably the majority of the time, 2 board members have been on this committee. You know, it's been changed, other than myself, there's been different people, but there usually has been 2.
Okay, so in the future though, are our HOA board minutes in total gonna be forwarded up to Gateway and included
Yes,
for public review?
yes.
they're gonna have to be. We have no choice. That's what.
Because that's an
what
open
Tony
meeting.
said.
That is
It's an
an
open
open
meeting.
meeting.
yeah,
Um,
if there's just I think if
Ooh.
just one person is giving a report, then I really don't see a really big problem asking questions from the board, except, those board members at the time or right now. But I think going forward, if we only have one person on the board making a presentation, then that should be,
It could eliminate,
presentation would be limited.
unless
Eliminate what?
the,
Eliminate what?
I'm sorry.
It will eliminate what?
I have an idea.
It would eliminate having a discussion because the other board members that are there,
But we're
Just
still
wouldn't
gonna-
have to
we're still gonna
speak.
Forward the minutes up here.
well, the report would be into the minutes just automatically because they're HOA minutes. If we don't list it as a advisory committee meeting, we don't have to have
I
the
think what
minutes.
he's saying is that if it's a committee member that's on the board and that board member makes the presentation, as long as it's not a discussion with other committee members that are in the audience.
Yeah.
He can talk to the community in general, make a report, and then also there can be questions going back and forth between him
I think it's
and
just-
other
And-
community
and-
members
and
on the
It's
committee.
it's just not the presentation of this committee's minutes. It's the whole daggone,
Agenda, almost.
the whole HOA board meeting. If we're all there, the concern is still there about interchanging things.
Actually, I'm gonna disagree with that, because in a discussion I did have with Tony, he says you could separate the minutes if you want into your own little group. But the fact of the matter is, if that meeting's not an open meeting, because only one person is going to be the one that speaks from that committee meeting. I think that Warren's right about that, eliminates the,
I don't want to send the minutes up here. I'm just.
I know.
I'm just thinking that,
I think the only minutes that should come up, the only thing on the advisory committee that should be on the HOA minutes is that Joe McCullough presented information concerning the SBAC, and he talked about this, and this, and the story. And that would be part of the regular minutes anyway.
and part of the problem is a timing thing too. like when the meetings occur, so that when one meeting happens, the minutes from the other meeting may not be available yet either. You know, there's-
That's the problem we have right now.
We are not going to get out of noticing the meeting and sending the whole meeting minutes up here.
Why do you say that?
Because it says so right
Yeah.
there.
If we listed as a Stoneybrook Advisory Committee meeting with the HOA, that's what we have to do.
No, no,
Yeah,
no.
but we won't do that.
No, oh, yeah, that's
We'll
what I'm
stop
saying.
doing
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
No, Tony says, advise the committee that more than one of this committee member will attend a future HOA board meeting, then the meeting will have to be noticed and the minutes will have to be kept and recorded and all that.
No, I think that's misstated or you're misunderstanding it, because I know that he said that if you're in the audience, and Laura said it too, there is a distinction from being in the audience and being on the board, that it's not the same thing.
Well, this says attend the HOA board meeting. Doesn't say anything about
No.
just attending.
And I'm telling you, that's not
But right
correct.
now, there are 3 committee
Maybe that's what
members
I
on the
disagreed with
board.
last month.
So we can pretend 3 months from now, this is not going to happen, but right now it is happening. There are 3 committee members
Right.
on that board. The only other thing is we could ask Tony, and I think somebody slipped and brought it in, where you could have at 7:00, you could start a Stoneybrook Advisory Committee
Sorry.
meeting, open to the public, let Joe read his
Yeah, yeah.
presentation and then
But
shut
that
it off.
was
and
more
then
about
not
if we
conflict.
continued to have multiple board members on the board.
Right, but the way it
on the
stands
committee.
right now, you are combining the 2 and the 2 sets
You
of
go
minutes.
ask Tony that if we're simply attending the board meeting, he's gonna come up and say exactly what these
No,
minutes.
I actually asked that specific question in the
I think you
previous
will.
meeting. And
I agree with you, Tom. I see it the
He
same way.
will,
yeah.
he absolutely
And
will.
I listened to the recording again, and it
Well, I
was
mean, if we
pretty
don't
clear.
ask him, there'll never be an
Well, I
issue.
gotta tell you something, if that's the case, then the hell with limiting ourselves to one board member or a committee member
That
on the board.
That was our
along,
argument
and we
from the
lost.
beginning.
I know, and that's why they did, I'm telling you right now, he did distinguish between the
But
two.
even if we were to eliminate your report and stuff from the meeting, there's still a 50-50 chance that something else on that agenda that's going to be talked about is going to eventually become
committee subject.
Committee business.
Why did we approve these minutes then? We just approved those minutes. And we approved what he said, what it's written right here. We approved that.
Well,
Now
if
we gotta
that's
go
what
back
he
and-
said,
Well, that's what he said.
if that's what he said, you gotta approve it, but if it's wrong, then we gotta go back and get a second opinion.
He doesn't think he's wrong. He's made
He's
it
not gonna
very,
say.
No,
very clear.
I'm gonna tell you
He's
right
made it real
now
clear.
that Laura did talk to him about that exact subject, and she did state to me, I was standing at the podium when she said it, and she said, no, there is a distinction. I talked to Tony between being on the board or being out in the audience. The issue isn't really just because you showed up, it's about what happens, because remember, it's not illegal to have more than 3 people or 3
I know.
people on the
But in the
board.
January
It's how
meeting,
it's if
It's
they
the
communicate.
interaction.
Exactly.
he made it very clear on what's in those minutes. And that's what I'm told to do on the sets of minutes from the Stoneybrook Advisory Committee and the ones from the HOA.
Well.
There
I
will be a delay. I cannot get those minutes.
I
to
can tell you
combine.
this,
but
that's
I
what he
will.
said, put in the minutes, we'll prove it. Just because we disagree with it doesn't mean that we can't approve it. But I will get clarification because that document hasn't been signed. And I think it's gonna be go up.
It's been signed.
They did sign already?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll talk. And that doesn't impact these comments, but
Oh,
I'll
no.
get
So what-
clarification.
What, the resolution.
Yeah, resolution.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Signatures
okay.
are right there.
I didn't flip it over and look at it. I was still reading the minutes before.
Yeah, but
Um,
until this changes May 1st, the way that I've heard Pierre speak, I'm going by the guidelines that he gave us for the way that you're combining the 2 meetings for the minutes to be sent back to Gateway Services. Under his legal recommendation, that's what I have to do. Well, after May 1st, and there's only 1 board member on here, you need to consider moving forward, how you're going to present those at the HOA meeting and decide if no one else will make any comments, that you're the only person really allowed to talk and there would be no
Well, if it's a
conversation.
notice
That's the
meeting, it's
only-
not a problem.
If we don't list it as a Stoneybrook Advisory Committee meeting, It's just the minutes from the HOA we're concerned about. And after we get down to where we should be on this, as far as that goes, it'd just be an HOA meeting. It won't be a Stoneybrook Advisory Committee meeting at the HOA meeting. It'll just be the HOA, and whatever comments are made by whoever makes a presentation will be part of the minutes there, but those minutes are the HOA minutes. That has nothing to do with the Stoneybrook Advisory, because the meeting wasn't noticed, it wasn't an agenda, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Was a roll call made or nothing?
And just the
That
fact
makes
that,
the meeting.
and just the fact that the committee members are there does not make the requirement of that. And that was made quite clear to me.
I'll give you an example. May's meeting, we're past May 1st. We got the new numbers, we got the one board member, all that kind of stuff. Now, on the agenda is gonna be, the rejuvenation process was so good. The board's gonna talk about rolling it out to the whole rest of the neighborhood. Well, that means that any of you other people that are at that meeting can't say a word about
If you're gonna, I know, it is,
it. It's, so nothing's gonna change because something like that can't come up. It's not on your agenda here, so it's nothing that we're actively talking about. But if the board does it first and we want them to take the lead, it's gonna come here.
And a year from now, if someone files a complaint and we're not doing exactly what it says right here, and we approve it in these minutes, we're all gonna be in trouble.
unless the statement is not correct,
Unless we get some clarification in writing
which is what we
that
gotta do.
overrides this.
But actually, on more than one occasion, I actually, when Tony was trying to, at a meeting, and he's going into what we had to do, I said, and if you remember, I stopped, and I asked him, Tony, but you're telling me that it's not improper to have three board members. It's a question of whether or not you're trying to prevent improper communication from occurring. And that's what you're doing. And he agreed. He said, no, just being there on the board is not the violation. It's the communication that's a violation. So just being in the, you want the board to be able to communicate. You don't want their hands tied because more than one of them was on the committee. But being out there in the committee, they don't have to participate in that conversation. And I think that's a point that Warren's trying to make, that I think Chris is trying to make,
Exactly.
and I agree with that. And Tony made it quite clear. And Laura said, because I also asked them, what's the difference if they're on the board or in the audience? And that's when Laura said to me that I had checked with Tony, there is a difference.
As long as we don't say anything. How are these, the people?
On a subject that pertains, that was discussed at the committee meeting. And it is, I think, stupid, and I have stated it, that it weakens the committee, and it actually holds back the ability to get things done. It truly does. It's a frustrating thing, and it's, sure, we worked around it for years, there's no doubt about it.
Well, now that we know what we need to do,
We
we
didn't
have
work
to do
around it, we
this.
ignored it.
And Tony never showed up since I was on here, since you were on there. I don't remember when he actually came in and went over the sunshine law with every one of us coming into this group. And I think we would have asked the correct questions like, okay, can we do this at a board meeting? I think it would have been resolved a long time ago. I think we're in a
Probably.
position now that we have to make the decisions to move forward and do it properly.
I actually have minutes of the first meetings of the committee, which is, because even if you go to the website, it says that our committee was started in 2012, and that's just wrong.
It was before that.
Oh, it was 2009. It was you and I and Dave were joined in 2009. At the beginning of 2010, but the committee was started around the middle of 2009. I believe it was June. And I have the first minutes of those meetings. And both at that meeting, Tony went through the whole spiel like he did the other time. And at the meeting when you and I and Dave joined, we also had the same spiel. And for quite some time, every time he had a new person, we would request that he would do that and talk, just to reinforce to everybody who may have been sliding, but also to the new person, what the restrictions were. With that said, I think that we're fine right now. I really do. We're noticing the meetings, and down the road, I think we'll be fine when there's only one person. How discussions are handled there.
Is someone gonna ask Tony to
Yes,
resolve?
I'll see him at the next board meeting.
Because all we can go by right now is what he said in the January meeting and the signed resolution.
Mhm.
And we need to stick to every inch of that until May 1st. And once the numbers change and positions change, you need to clarify with him moving forward. Okay, we've done everything that the resolution says. Now, what do we do about the people in the audience? And if it comes to don't speak or your presentation is not allowed to be spoken, you just hand it over. We need somebody to just say, this is the way you're going to do it moving forward.
But that precludes any opportunity of the board to dig deeper and get answers
Yeah. They can
about
send
what's going
emails.
and why it's going on. And I think that's important.
I know.
And conversely, go in the other direction too. In
Moving
any
forward,
case, there's going to be some changes coming, and like I said, some of the changes are going to be suggested by Tony on how we even handle managing the assets within the
Right.
community.
I think once the MOU is updated too, things will start falling into place much better.
All right, so you understand what's been weighing, I'm telling you, this has been weighing on me for a little while, how to deal with it, and this is what's going on. We've agreed to certain things. The resolution is completed, it is signed and approved, and so with that done, I'm gonna move on from that subject. Be prepared for next meeting, this will become a more significant and immediate discussion. Now, I do want to point out and remind you that budget's got to get done in
Sorry,
May.
can we just go back and do security or jump 6? Can we just go back and do 6?
Pebblebrook sidewalk, go ahead.
Yes. Because I had sent in complaints specifically about this one on Bluestone for quite a while now. And the email, all of you should have gotten a copy of it. Georgia just brought it out. This is the latest, greatest information from Laura. And I know that it's basically that they're, understaffed. She had just recommended let Angela possibly be the liaison because I've got a passion to get this thing done. I've been trying to get this done for a long time. She had recommended a couple of companies there. I've already kind of heard through the grapevine that there may be some other companies that you would suggest or take some off of this list. But I have no problem walking that sidewalk and having a professional person give us guidance on
Well, I suggest,
more than this specific spot, if there's other areas, so we have a plan to get proposals.
let me say this, there are two names on here.
Mhm.
And one of them, I believe, because of past experience, we have to eliminate, okay?
Okay.
And that's Manco.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
That
Thank
tower?
you. It is
That tower?
crossed
No,
off.
Manco.
Oh, Manco, okay, I've never,
Got it.
Met Tower, I do not know them. I have no
They're
idea
doing
who
the
they are.
ponds.
they're
Oh,
actively doing the
yes.
ponds.
I know who that
Oh,
is.
and they do
Yeah.
the little concrete work.
Yeah,
like that,
apparently,
too?
yeah. I just saw this
That's what I
today.
recognize.
Because we recently used someone to do some small concrete job at
I'll
our.
check into that, and get
In the
that
back
part.
by the shed. We extended the sidewalk back to the shed and around the corner. So
It seemed to be a decent job, and I think we should consider them too.
So my goal
I
is
think
always
these
to get 3.
recommendations, we got somebody else,
Yeah.
Well-
Well, what I'm saying is I want to put an added name to this list, cross one off.
I'd like to
So-
have 3 names because I like to get 3 proposals.
If you come up with another name, but I'm telling you that don't waste your time.
Well, right now I've got 1, maybe 2,
Yeah.
right?
Well, you want to get that to me again? I'll write it down.
RUCOS,
RUCOS.
Concrete Inc.
Got a number?
I don't have a number, but their address is 4305 6th Street West, Lehigh Acres.
I can look them up. I'll research it.
Strangely enough,
RUCOS concrete. Yeah, you can map quest them or just
Okay.
Google them. I can get that.
All right, so I'd like
Two.
to add that name to the list. So the two names we're looking at are Metower and Rukos.
And I'll find another one.
And if you can find another one, fine.
Is it okay if I'm the liaison since we're all not supposed to speak to each other? Go down.
I think in
sidewalk.
this particular
Professional.
case, we do need to get the office involved. And Carmen has to be on the loop in this. And in fact, I also believe if a request for a proposal or quote,
Everything I
whatever,
gotta do is through Laura.
I think right now she wants us to initiate it from her office.
I know, but I have to give her all the information.
Yes, I agree.
Oh, yeah.
But we
We'll
gotta
do all the
initiate it.
legwork.
We got to
then we'll
initiate it,
get
but
her.
Carmen's got to be involved with
Yeah.
this. The CAM has to be
Sure.
involved with this. You would agree, I assume.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
I just hope she can handle it.
I know. Well,
I'll
we're
make,
gonna have to
I'll
hold
make
Pepper a
all,
little bit.
I'll do all the meetings and phone calls. I just need names and numbers.
Well, in this
That'll take a
particular
load off of
case,
her.
Angela is offering to be the point, but, but still, Carmen's gonna know what's going on and be part of the operation.
Well, we work well together.
Yeah, I'm not saying you don't, but I'm just saying that the RFP or whatever it is that
Oh,
we
she'll
send
do all
out
that.
has to be coming out of Stoneybrook. And
Absolutely.
the complication here, and this is a complication, is they have to be made aware that Gateway will be the payer, therefore the bill must be made out to them. And if they need a tax ID number, they got to get it from
And insurance.
insurance
Yeah.
and a W-9.
Right, but we need to bring back the
Please write
proposals.
those things down. I
Yeah,
know.
I did. But we need to bring all that back to this committee before it goes to the HOA board, correct?
Yeah, but we got to get it from the office.
Right.
The office has got to be the one to do it.
Carmen.
And when they send that out, that list of things should be part of the proposal.
Okay.
Okay.
All right,
There should
I
be
know
a-
it comes out of the 004. I'm sorry, what'd you say after that? I was trying to write fast.
When you do the RFP, you
tax.
should have a date when it's due. Don't,
Yeah.
a couple times they've done it open-ended and you get all done, ready to go, and I'll say, oh, here's one here. Then it just screws everything up.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to be in.
You got to be in a certain date.
At the
You
close
need a
of business.
W-9,
Yeah.
you need a certificate of insurance. And the billing address and entity is Gateway Services at this address.
Yeah, gotta make sure Gateway Services is on that, so they. pay
Or else,
Stoneybrook
otherwise
and
it does not
Gateway.
get paid.
Got it.
Okay, so between Laura and Carmen,
Carmen
They'll
should
tell me
have
everything.
another name because I'm sure they got more than just the guy who did the concrete at the shed. I'm sure she got other proposals too.
and actually a couple of my neighbors recently have had their entire driveways done, so I can get names. But they'll do the RFP. I just want to be able to do the
Carmen
legwork.
should know what all they have to give, and if she has any questions.
You don't want to know the contractor we didn't choose for the concrete. He was supposed to $12,000.
Yes, I do.
Oh,
I want to know that. I want to know, don't
And
waste
this
my
guy did
time.
it
I
for
want to know.
5968.
So who do I not call? I need to know that.
Well, she'll be able to give you that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I don't want to waste my time if there's a no.
I'm texting her as we have questions, so I can give information here, so we don't have to wait.
But this,
You're
this,
gonna come next
yeah,
month.
this one is major. That's been there for over 2 years. But there are some other ones, and that's where we need a professional concrete company to go, oh, these are okay, or grind these down. I can't do the whole sidewalk. I'm not a concrete professional person, but I want to walk and go, I think that's a trip hazard. And they'll go, yep, that one's on our list for proposals anyway. We can,
The other thing you need to include on the RFP, who the contact person is and who will answer questions. You don't want them calling and talking to you and then calling Carmen and talking to Carmen, because the information gets through, only one person should be answering
right.
questions.
Well, I want to hit it all to Carmen. I
Yeah.
want to get the ball rolling.
One person is answering
Make sure
questions.
she
there-
gets the correct information.
They're overwhelmed and so is she, so.
There was an issue of when our next board meeting was going to be, and somehow Carmen told Georgia that it was 7:30. Next, the HOA board meeting. I don't know where that came from. Angela.
It got fixed quick. So we're good.
That was his.
Oh, no.
So I don't know how things like that happen, but that's what always
So
concerns.
the sidewalks can just stay on. What I like is when we're working on something, it needs to stay on the agenda. I've seen things like float away and I have to ask to bring them back. So this needs to stay on the agenda
Okay.
till it's done. Okay, thank you. That was it. Number 8.
Just thinking about what we just said, budget discussion. All right, so in any case, be prepared. I want to say this, the last budget we had, the format that was sent out to us to review the past was missing a couple of columns that I thought that we needed to make an intelligent decision. And I actually have a new computer now and I have the latest, greatest, programs, and I'll be able to formulate something and take what they did last time and add 1 or 2 columns to it to send in to make the suggestion. I'll go back to what we had a few years ago, what we were using, and it was quite adequate.
I think
And, but
we're
going
talking
forward,
about budget right now for a few minutes.
yeah, I am. And
Okay.
let me just say this, and this subject came out at our Meet the Candidates night. And then I agree it applies here. I believe it applies here. And that is that inflation rate is way up. Things are costing more. Some things way more above the inflation rate. Anticipate we're going to have some increases. And that we may not even know about those increases yet when we're doing the budget. So we have to sort of like build a little cushion in here, I think. Just be aware of that. In any case, you had some points.
I'm just gonna point, that we need to take a look at what other projects we need to do that's gonna cost the money. Like this year, we did all the sable palms. Probably next year, we should probably be trimming out some of the oak trees, at least the umbrellas and stuff, to get some costs on that.
Yeah.
We need to work on our signs, our sign poles and stuff, and I'm hoping to get with someone who will give us an idea of what that would cost to repair them all, paint them, et cetera.
And which is what we did the last time. They were doing one or two at a time and fixing them up.
Just to see how much, we have some damaged ones, we have some ones that need to be straightened up, but to get the whole thing done and painted, just to get an idea of a cost. And, but I had something else in my mind, but we need to have those for the budget, because some of the stuff would be a major project. Other stuff we may just have to, like the tree budget, we may have to increase that a little bit, because the oak trees are a little more expensive to do than the sage.
Oh, they're more than a little more. Yeah.
Yeah.
They really are more. The thing about the oak trees though, that's a good thing, is that believe it or not, they prefer to take the debris from the oak trees because they can chip them up and sell that as a mulch, where they can't do that with the palms. Yeah, it doesn't work. If you got ideas like that, anyone here, start making notes to yourself to bring to that meeting. Because it's something we got to talk about a little bit more in detail to prepare for May. May's going to be your budget month. And if you recall, the last couple of years, we actually had 2 meetings in May.
Yeah.
Just to wrap things up at the end there. Part of that wasn't our fault though, because we were late getting some information that we needed. And it kind of tied our hands. Hopefully that won't be the case this year.
I think that's one thing that perhaps Chris might bring up at the next, or whoever speaks on the advisory at the next board meeting. The board may see some projects that we need to do, and we need to get that information from them so they can be feeding us information as far as what they see as a need to get done that would come out of the 04 fund. So I think, a combination of getting that information so that when things pop up, we're not over there robbing Peter to pay Paul to get some of this stuff done. Even though it may not make the budget, at least we get a list of the stuff that the HOA is thinking is important to get fixed. Programming, like the roof or the gatehouse or some other stuff that needs to get done that should be done routinely, and those kinds of things that we need to budget for.
But I think the board itself has to get actively involved in
That's
which hasn't been going on recently. On that subject, anybody else have anything you want to throw in?
So will this stay on the agenda for next month and we'll actually be able to start
Are we
reviewing the
talking
budget?
budget? Oh, over the next couple months, budget will definitely be there. We'll be talking about things, and
So it stays.
I will try to get, there was a time, the best I could do years ago was get the end of the first quarter, which was December 31st. And how they thought we were going to do any kind of a significant budget with so little information was ridiculous, especially when we were starting out, didn't have history to base it on. Yeah, we should be able to get the March 31st, which is 6 months in, half year. And then you can sort of, some things, all right, that's almost a double, maybe add 5% on, 6% for inflation. But we know some things are going to jump. And we really need to anticipate, think about it, whatever. And in terms of getting some indication, because some of the contracts are out of phase with us, and that becomes, and that's something Brian was trying to do. I don't know how successful he was, but he was trying to get the gateway contracts to be lined up with the fiscal year, so we didn't have that disconnect. I truly don't know where it stands, because that impacts us too. All right, Next meeting is April 6th, which fortunately is after the election. And no, and the discussion was that you take it home, you look it over, maybe you can drive around, you take note of what you see. And that'll be discussion for next thing, and we can vote on approving it.
And she's gonna give her recommendation of order.
Yeah, and which will help us a little bit too.
So that needs to be
Okay, so-
on the agenda.
So all of these proposals go with this list today?
Yes,
Okay.
That's correct.
just not in the order. she
And,
wrote.
you know, it's a tough decision and whether or not we want to get involved. You know, is this the best they could do? You know, if we approve all these proposals, and it is thousands and thousands of dollars.
Thousands of-
And, you know, is there a quantity discount, if you know what I'm saying? I don't. If it was my business, I'd be sitting down with them, talking, well, what can
Yeah.
you really do for it? I don't know how much we want to get into that or not. But
I've seen more than one landscaping company and the prices are just,
Well,
Seem
you
like
were bringing
wish we
that
could find-
subject, up before, and you probably were not part of the discussion that we had with the board at the time, but we did talk to Mike from, what's it, Land Care?
Land care.
And asked for a quote for the things that Kate was doing here, and they were way higher. They really were.
I've seen their bills. They're up there, fat.
But we did the Sable, they were sky high.
Yeah.
And Mainscapes, they use Joshua Tree most of the time anyway, but they were way lower than everybody else
Yeah.
on those
And
trees.
similar situation with,
You think those are reasonable?
I haven't looked.
we got to think about it.
If you want a number, 8,340
Is the total of the seven
all
she
of them,
gave us?
for all
The
pages.
cheapest one was like $378. They went up, way up from there.
But yeah,
Mainscapes
Joe
is
said-
expensive.
What I think Mainscape had the cheapest prices when we had bid a couple things, and Land Care was the most expensive.
I guess it's
I
just,
don't know if they were the most, but they were
But they
certainly a
were.
lot higher than Mainscape.
and I guess this is just, long due coming, so it's just. things
I
that we
know
should have
from
been
years
gradually
ago,
doing.
we had a handful of companies bid on the landscaping for the whole community. The discrepancy was unbelievable. I mean, some companies were as much as 3 times as much. Now, those companies were coming out of like Naples and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And maybe they're used to making that much or charging, or maybe they do that much of a better job. I don't know.
I don't think they can do that much better of a
3
job.
times better, I don't know, but we weren't taking the risk to find out at the time. Let's say it.
Sometimes they're very busy and they'll just shoot you a high one if they.
Because, yeah, if you're willing to pay, they will hire more people for that.
You know, our landscaping company in the villas, they've always gone up 3% in the years we've had them. This year, they went up 6% for everybody but us. We had our contracts locked in at 5%, but they went to the 5%. And then as we're going along, I'm finding other little places where they've raised their costs.
Yeah, tweaking
And,
it.
and everybody is just raising their costs a little bit.
Yeah.
And I've looked at it, I got a
Well,
meeting next week.
labor costs are way up. front.
Yeah.
And
There's no question about that. Fertilizer costs,
oh,
ridiculous if you priced out what a bag of fertilizer goes for right now.
well, pool companies are charging more now because they're all their acids and all that chemical stuff they use now is all going up. So everybody's going up.
So anticipate, you're gonna have to anticipate, to look at that when doing your budget, so as not to be shocked. I think you want to err on the
High side.
high side, yeah,
You never know what's gonna happen.
exactly. Now, we have enough, we will have, going into next year, still money left over that will be non-dedicated, that you can move over, to have access to. And there is that other fund that we put the $10,000 into each year, that's, I guess, a capital investment or something like that. I can't remember. But it's not a huge amount, but it's nice to have a few bucks there anyway, but man,
It's getting tougher.
you really gotta watch where the money goes. At least we got our own bank account. so you can track it. In any case, anybody have any wants, desires, wishes, ideas? I'll start with you, Chris.
I don't think so. I think, in looking at this, Kathy's maintenance stuff, mainscape stuff, I think, as was mentioned before, it is a lot of catch-up. Probably very similar to 2 years ago when we brought on the new pool company for the HOA, and we had to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to fix the neglect and the things that didn't get done.
It does happen, yeah. Angela?
Anything specific?
I do have a question on our agenda where I know that things are being posted properly by Gateway Services and the office, but even like on our agenda, do we need to make sure where it says set the next meeting is in April 6th? Are we supposed to also announce the March 21st meeting?
March 21st board meeting.
No, the
Stoneybrook
dual meeting.
Advisory Committee meeting with the combined board meeting, yes.
I assume that's how it's being stated, because that's.
Oh,
what
it
we-
is,
Yeah,
but on our agenda, when we announce our next meeting, shouldn't we announce that meeting?
and that's a good point. I understand, and I have to confess, I hadn't thought about that. All right, then we also will have our meeting. Suppose we announce it, but don't even have a quorum. What happens then? You know, there's no meeting. But in any case, so there is the possibility of having a meeting at, what is it?
March 21st.
March
7
21st.
PM, it's
Yep.
already advertised
7
and posted
PM.
everywhere.
And so that's the other meeting. And you're welcome to come, Virginia. We can have all seven there. In any case, anything else?
That was a lot to work on. So during the next month, a lot to get accomplished by April 6th. I just feel like there's a major deadline coming up May 1st to get some
And I
things
still got
in the
problems
process.
getting the, getting back on the proposals for the sliding door at the gatehouse.
Oh, yeah, I meant
I thought that was
We
done.
got that one price for $59.95, and she's trying to get more prices. She got one that was, because a lot of vendors are saying, no,
Not big enough.
3-door minimum.
Yeah, but
We
it's a
only have one door.
maintenance. If you've got
So I
a
gotta
good
get a
price, you
spec.
hire the first one. You don't have to get 3 quotes on that, do you?
How about the
That's
door
an emergency
cannot be
maintenance.
repaired? There's no way of repairing it?
When you have,
Oh, he's.
if you look at that window right there, you got the frame that goes around the window.
Yeah.
The door handle is attached to that frame, and that frame is broken. The glass isn't,
Oh,
but the frame is. So you go to grab that handle and you're wiggling the whole thing.
Is that an odd size or it is some kind of a standard
No, it's a
size?
6-foot
door?
slide.
It's not like I can go to Amazon, I can't buy it?
Home Depot,
Well, I don't know if you want to get that.
What do we fix
But I missed that.
the guardhouse door. sliding
The
door.
sliding
Oh, the
doors.
sliding.
They
Oh.
want to get $5,900 to replace that door.
It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
It's only ridiculous.
Did you contact
When
Oh,
I-
that's the
Uh,
only,
yeah.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood you on the price. I thought you only got one.
Did you
choice.
contact the slider man?
The slider man repairs rollers. I don't think he replaces whole doors.
Why wouldn't you hire a handyman to go by the
You
door?
have
and
to be
put it
able to
in?
get the door. That's the problem I'm asking.
Oh, you can't, it's just
And
supply and
Then
demand, you
it's
can't get
12
a door.
12 to 16 weeks, it's gotta be ordered.
Oh, geez.
At least from these sources of supply.
So we need to hire extra guards to guard the door. No.
We just need to be careful with the door.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they're not holding the handle in the hand.
Wow. I haven't looked at it.
It's too bad we couldn't switch the 2 doors and take that panel that's currently sliding. Because, you know, down in Florida, both doors slide.
Yeah.
So the one on the left, they never use. It's too bad they can't just turn it
Switch it,
around
Reverse it around?
Ask the slider
and
man.
use the other.
Yes.
You know what?
He might be able to do a flip switch
Maybe we can have lip wax.
because that's what they do.
And there is, and I've
Repair
used
doors.
Slide Doctor or something like that, did work on mine too.
Wouldn't hurt to
It
ask.
might be worth asking, that's correct. I agree.
It's on your list, Chris.
Have them come out and take a look and say, oh, yeah, I can do that. You might be shocked what they can do.
And everybody saw the gatehouse roof was clean, right?
I do it with-
And next week is supposed to be the clubhouse,
Was it
correct?
next week? I thought it was in the 20s. But we got.
Oh, is it that long? Yes, you're
Yeah.
right. When
In
they
the
told me.
20s, I think we're in for striping the streets and cleaning the clubhouse.
Who has the date on that? I thought it was the last week of March.
Wouldn't the 20s be the last one?
Well, almost, yeah, 21st, yeah. That's
Um,
third week, whatever.
In any case, yeah, that, we'll be paying for the cleaning of the roof, so make sure he should know how to build gateway on that. For the gatehouse. And I've already told.
Yeah, I think that was
him.
400 something.
Yeah.
Who's gonna do the roof on the gatehouse? Harry
What's
did
that?
it. Harry?
Harry.
Harry did it.
He said
Did
it's
it already.
done.
Is it done?
Oh, it looks beautiful.
The bill just
I
has
never
to be
did.
here, not department, right?
It almost looks like Howard Johnson with the bright orange.
When are we gonna do the sidewalks along Pebblebrook?
That was a topic of discussion. I'd like to get it done during the dry season, but there is that time when those trees along,
Yeah,
what
they
I'm
shed
talking
it.
about. And one year we cleaned them and I think a week later on, everything dropped on them and they were like, nothing had ever happened. So,
That's the olive trees, right?
yeah, I think, well, they call them olive trees. They're really not, but yeah, that's what we call them, is olive trees. They're something
Shady
else.
lights?
It might be.
The black olive.
Is it a black olive? I've
Yeah,
never
you
seen an
look- you
olive
look at-
grow on it.
You look up Shady Lady and they'll say black olive.
Yeah, I think it's just a name though. And because the other tree that I had that blew over, they called that a mahogany and it really wasn't a mahogany either.
Well, yeah, it is. Sure it is.
It is a real mahogany?
Absolutely. Drag one of those cut ends off your sidewalk.
I know, they're heavy.
It looks like a mahogany stain on your sidewalk
Okay, well, that's good to know.
that you have to take up with Clorox.
In any case, you're all right then, Warren? Virginia, as far as comments?
Oh, yeah, I moved for
Virginia,
adjournment.
anything?
This is just an aside. With all the problems that they're having with that company in Naples, I assume we're all okay.
That's why, one of the reasons why you have to be careful who you do business with. And I know that Warren right now, that community, their sub-community has the issue of looking at insurance that maybe they don't need or do need for the handling of money by the board members. The board members, neither of us really handle money. I mean, the board at Stoneybrook, we don't pay bills out of the office. We don't handle money. But apparently in some communities, they handle it out of the office by board members. The treasurer writes checks and things, That company down there, yeah, that was terrible. I don't know how to get away with it.
I'm worried about our community ever since that happened.
I can't believe that an HOA board would turn all their finances and
Over,
their bank accounts and everything over to a commercial
With
company.
no
like that.
oversight.
Yeah, there was no oversight or nothing. They couldn't get in to do anything. But the guy's got a nice airplane now flying back and
I'm
forth.
sure he
to Columbia.
does. Sure
I
he
think
does.
he has a yacht too. if
Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember
yeah,
correctly.
yeah.
I heard about that and it just boggles. And it wasn't like one or two communities, it was a ton of communities. I think a bunch of them must have been small communities that didn't have a very active board and with very little oversight. Because communities, that run themselves that way. Let the management company take care of it. They even run meetings. When you have a meeting, it's them. It's not the, elected board members of who are residents.
Well, I just had nightmares about that.
When
Very
you get ready
scary.
to make a motion to adjourn.
Does anybody have anything else
You're gonna
here
make a motion to adjourn.
that maybe we,
I made a motion to adjourn.
A second.
all right, all in favor?
Like,
We're done.
You sit here and
that
talk
was
forever.
fast.
Hey, thanks, everybody. I know that it's 2 hours.
Didn't take her long to come in either. Shut it down.
Georgia, can I ask you, like, just on our agenda, like when I'm looking at minutes too, Laura's name will be there or your name will be there?